Hey everyone, this is Andrew at Plainview Farm. In today's video, I am going to take 3 starters apart that I have laying here on the table. I don't know how well they show up on the camera that you can see them. I have to my right here the old starter that was on the Farmall M that the previous owner gave me whenever I bought the tractor. I also have the new starter that he bought for it. Then I have an extra one that I had laying around that doesn't work. So my plan is, before I buy a whole bunch of new parts to put in to the old original starter, of course I don't know if it's original, but I imagine it's been either rebuilt or replaced at some point. Either way, to take this old starter, before I buy new parts to put in it, I'm gonna take them all apart and see what everything looks like, and if I can, well, maybe I'll take these 3 and make one good one. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. So before we get started, I've got my tools all right here, various screwdriver bits, sockets, that kind of thing. I have a soldering iron. It's actually maybe just out of the frame, laying over here, soldering gun, whatever you want to call it, solder gun. And I also have some rosin paper taped down onto the kitchen table here, and that will help protect my marriage. So the first thing we need to do is actually tear apart the old starter right here. First thing I'm going to do is take this back plate off. Try not to strip out the bolt here. It doesn't look like it's in all that good shape. I think it's been stripped out and put back together once before. Oh, and yes, I am one of those guys that wears blue gloves to keep all the grease and the dirt and stuff off my fingers. Alright, so I'm going to take the back cover off. Oh, yeah, got to take the screw out. I'm hoping this is potentially an original starter. The fact that we've got flat screws on everything, flathead screws, is pretty encouraging as far as that goes. Yeah, old brushes are pretty worn. If you can see here, there's a good bit of wear on them. This one right here actually has a groove in it. If you can see it, I'm not sure. Lighting isn't all that great in here. I'm sorry. Apologize for that. Now next, I believe the cover should come off, if I remember correctly. There it goes. Yeah, buddy. Oh, man. Yeah, buddy. Years of gunk and nasty right there. Many, many years. Had some waspers living inside this. Now I believe we can take the nose cone off. I think if we take the nose cone off, the armature will all come with it. I think. Yep, I was right. I knew it. Oh. Okay, so take out our whatchamacallit key there. So now this is our armature. This is what makes the starter go around. I don't see anything that makes me nervous here. I can test it all, clean it up, test it. Bushings are wore plumb out in this one. You can see here, if I can get the camera to focus on it. This bushing right here, little brass bushing, is absolutely wore thin. It's actually, if I feel up in here and with my finger and feel where it's like almost worn completely through in spots. Alright, it's quite possible that all we're going to have to replace on the old one is this right here. Maybe rob some brushes out of this newer one. Maybe not have to worry about much else. We shall see in just a moment. Start to take off our little dust cover or whatever it's called here. I think that's what it's called. And now we need a Phillips bit. We can take our screws out here, possibly. Actually, it's got a, well, maybe not. Let's see here. If I've got the right bit to fit that. Oh yeah, there we go. Gotta have the right bit to fit. Cheap junky paint on this one's like bubbling off. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's a bubbling off. Of course, that one's going to be metric. Gosh. 10 millimeter. Metric. look at these washers. Good grief. That's always a good sign, isn't it? You're taking something apart and the washers are coming apart in your fingers. The lock rings, I guess, the lock washers. That's what you want to see. Always a good sign, isn't it? Yeah, these brushes look much nicer. And they've still got quite a bit of wear, quite a bit of life left on them. So at the very least, we'll be taking these brushes. This is one thing I'm interested to see right here. Take the little cover off of there. Gosh, that's really frustrating. You know what? Cheap, cheap junk. It's loose. No wonder it doesn't work like it's supposed to. Yep, so there's my problem right there. There's my problem in my starter. Oh, that makes me mad. That really makes me mad. Look, see the bolt spinning? Sometimes it'd be connected, sometimes it wasn't. So we did have an armature issue. On one of the previous videos I mentioned that, you know, try to spin the armature and make it work. So we didn't have an armature issue. Our issue was right here in our fields. Frustrating. Very, very frustrating. Probably should have torn this one apart before I tore the old one apart, I guess. Everything else looks to be fine. There's really nothing else here that concerns me. Obviously I haven't got the whole thing apart yet. But there's nothing else that's like shocking me going, oh no, here's a problem. But it would appear that we need to tighten this thing down. Oh, that's... I don't know if I can get a hold of that hard enough to tighten it. Alright, so I ran out and I got my little multimeter here. It might be kind of hard to see. We'll zoom in just a touch. Alright, so I went and got my multimeter. And we're going to test the fields on this starter. So we put in one of our terminals down here. We've got it set to ohms. I've got it turned over to ohms. And whenever I touch to my bolt here, where I connect the tractor, the battery positive cable to the starter, we get nothing. But if I come over here and I touch inside, hopefully that's showing up on the camera, but pull it away, touch it to our bolt, nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, and look, there we go, we got it to jump. We got it to jump. Jumps, 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 bolt, nothing. So I am confident that that is my problem in this starter. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop taking this apart right here, and I'm just going to solder this back here to this bolt where it belongs, and hopefully that will fix our problem. I also tested on the armature over here, I also tested the armature, checked it out, you know, picked a few spots here opposite one another. And you know, we tested fine on it all the way across. Didn't have any issues, you know, so that's good. Don't have any problems anywhere. I feel pretty good that we don't have any bad spots in our armature. It all looks to be okay. So again, I am confident that that is our bad spot. So we need to get some solder this all back together, back how it's supposed to be, and then hopefully that will fix everything. Now I'm sure that my soldering skills are not the greatest, so be gentle. I'll start by trying to heat up that lug right there, and maybe we can reattach. I did get a little bit of solder on this right here already, on this wire. We'll see if we can heat this lug up. Maybe get it to take a little bit. We can solder this all back together and hopefully be able to use our starter again. Yeah, there we go. It is getting hot enough, it's taking solder. So we will put a little bit on there, melt some on there first. And then we'll come back in with the wire. Alright, so I think that is good enough for that. So I'll put my nice little blue gloves back on. We'll see if we can't put this thing back together. Okay, so make sure that I didn't forget any parts anywhere. Put our little washer back on there. Our little plastic washer is actually what that is. Hey, look, it'll stand on its head. Alright, now the fun begins. Let me try to put this cap back on without losing our washers and all of that good stuff. Keeping the brushes where they're supposed to be and everything. Just kind of have to work your way around it. There are some really good videos on rebuilding starters. This is not intended to be some kind of tutorial. This is just me doing stuff, just so you know. I am by no means an expert on this kind of work right here. Not that any of you would confuse me with being an expert. Alright, I got the cap on. I'm going to try to run these long bolts down in where they're supposed to go, hopefully without hitting anything. Hey, look at that. It bit. Woohoo! gonna help keep everything lined up. Now I get to go to all the fun of trying to get these the brush wires, everything all connected back to the field coils, which these do not have threaded. I have to use a nut and a screw is what I'm trying to say, which is going to be a lot of fun. Take the glove off. See if this works. Alright, I think that one's good. Roll it over and get the other side. These are kind of a pain, especially when these bend in. Maybe. Maybe. Look at that. And now it just goes right on. Part of me's happy, part of me's frustrated about that. Gasket on here. Tape isn't any good. Use some electrical tape because that's what I have handy. A little dust cover ring, whatever you want to call it. All right, we've got it back together-ish. Now we just got to put it on the tractor and see if it works. All right, here we go. Just about thread the whole thing with my fingers here. And that's good and tight. Now we'll put on our positive lead from the battery, or actually I guess from the solenoid. I'm going to try to be careful whenever we tighten this up, seeing as how this is where our problem was. Okay, now let's put the battery on. And the battery is fully charged now. Our positive cable and our negative cable. Cross your fingers. All right. I don't know, it almost acts like the battery is not holding a charge, which would be just about right. I'm gonna go get the truck. Maybe we can jump start it. All right, I know there are gonna be people out there that don't like what I'm about to do, but I'm sorry. That's all I can say. So the starter is fixed, but it would appear that the solenoid is bad. I was able to jump it off of the battery on the tractor, so that makes me feel halfway decent about the battery that's on the tractor. So I'm guessing at this point, either that or it's the, well, I don't think it'd be the key switch because I've got the key switch turned on. I'm guessing that it probably wouldn't have run if the key switch wasn't turned on. This thing has been changed over to electronic ignition. So again, I'm thinking that it's got to be the solenoid. So anyway, we'll test that out. But the major deal here is that the Farmall M, after a few weeks of setting, is running again. The starter is starting like it's supposed to. It's starting the tractor. I'll just have to check out that solenoid now. So, as always, I appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.